The Addiction to Flavor. Chapter 4. The craving for flavor is not hunger. One of the great misunderstandings that sustains food addiction is the confusion between real hunger and the craving for flavor. At first glance, they might seem the same. Both create a sensation of wanting to eat, but in reality, they are two completely different phenomena, with distinct origins, effects, and consequences. Real hunger is a message from the body. It's a signal that rises from deep within the system to indicate a specific biological need. I need nutrients. It's not a desperate urgency, it doesn't demand a specific type of food, and it doesn't cause anxiety or distress. Real hunger is like a calm inner bell. If you don't respond immediately, it doesn't dominate you. It waits. It remains. And when it's addressed, it quiets down with any real food. Craving for flavor, on the other hand, doesn't come from the physical body. It comes from the brain's reward system. It's an emotional chemical response to a stimulation that has become habitual. The craving for flavor doesn't ask for nutrients, it asks for pleasure. It wants impact. It wants an explosion in the mouth. And when it's satisfied, it doesn't calm down, it reinforces itself. Real hunger is simple. Flavor craving is impulsive. If you're truly hungry, a bowl of rice, a piece of fruit, or a soup is enough. You feel good after eating, not heavy or guilty. Your body relaxes, your mind clears. But if it's a craving for flavor, simple food isn't enough. You want something salty and crunchy and hot and cheesy. Or something sweet and cold and creamy with chocolate. It's a craving that doesn't aim to nourish the body, it aims to stimulate the mind. That's why it often ends with a sense of emptiness, not satisfaction. And that emptiness generates more craving, more searching, more unnecessary food. That's where the vicious cycle begins. The body is full, but the mind keeps wanting. The craving for flavor is learned, not natural. No baby is born wanting French fries or strawberry ice cream. Those preferences are learned. They are installed. They are recorded in emotional memory as positive stimuli. Why? Because industrialized foods are designed for that, for dependence. Flavor craving is built through repetition. The more a hyper-palatable food is consumed, that is, food with artificially intense flavors, the stronger the link between that flavor and pleasure becomes. The brain stops seeking fullness and starts seeking sensory impact. Over time, we no longer eat because we're hungry. We eat because we're bored, sad, anxious, distracted, or simply because we want to feel that mini euphoria in the mouth. That's when our inner compass is completely lost. Craving is not a flaw, it's a trap. This is crucial to understand. Having flavor cravings doesn't mean you're broken or lack willpower. It means you've fallen into a chemical and cultural trap. A trap designed to make you repeat, to make you need, to keep you from asking if you're truly hungry or not. And like any trap, it can be disarmed. The first step is seeing it. Recognizing that many times when you feel hungry, it's actually not hunger. It's a conditioned response after years of artificial consumption. Once you see it, everything changes. It's no longer a battle against yourself. It becomes a cleansing, a reprogramming. Learning to differentiate again. The good news is the body doesn't forget. It's just confused. If you stop feeding it distortion, it begins to remember. You return to true hunger, not flavor craving. You eat without guilt. You enjoy a tomato, an apple, a homemade soup, without needing to overstimulate your mouth for pleasure. And when that reconnection happens, you no longer need to forbid yourself anything. Your body simply stops asking for it. The body's confusion is logical, not pathological. For years, Many people have been led to believe their body is a problem, that it doesn't work well, that it has malfunctions, imbalances, defects, that it craves what it shouldn't, that it can't self-regulate, that it can't be trusted. But that perception is false. The body isn't failing, it's responding logically to what it receives. When the food environment is dominated by artificial stimuli, by non-recognizable food, by combinations designed to confuse and overstimulate, the body simply does what it can. It adapts. It protects. It gets used to it. That doesn't make it an enemy, it makes it a brilliant survival system. If what goes in isn't clear, what the body feels won't be either. When you feed your body distorted, processed, chemically overloaded food, the digestive, hormonal, and neurological systems receive mixed messages. The body tries to interpret them, but can't process them clearly, because it's not real food in a biological sense. It's artificial substances disguised as food. Then the body begins generating reactions that seem contradictory. You eat and still feel hungry. You feel full but not satisfied. You crash after eating. You get cravings that don't correspond to any physical need. Here's where the major confusion arises. We believe the body is broken, when it's actually just receiving false signals and trying to make sense of them. It's not a disease, it's prolonged intoxication. What is often labeled as a disorder or metabolic problem is, in large part, the result of long-term exposure to foods that alter the body's internal chemistry. Obesity, chronic fatigue, food anxiety, even mental fog after eating, these are not body defects. They are symptoms of repeated intoxication. Think of a computer filled with thousands of corrupted files. It's not slow because it's broken, but because it's overloaded. The same happens with the human body. It's not failing, it's saturated with false information. When detox begins, the body starts speaking clearly. The amazing thing is that the body doesn't hold grudges. It doesn't need to be fixed. It just needs to stop being confused. When you stop eating fake food, the body reacts immediately. Hunger signals change. Chaotic cravings disappear. You feel like moving, resting, hydrating. Emotional balance returns. This process can take days, weeks, or months depending on the person, but it happens naturally. It's not forced. Because the body's intelligence was never lost. It was just buried under layers of unnecessary stimulation. The body wants your well-being, not your punishment. One of the most damaging beliefs installed culturally is that the body resists change or sabotages improvement efforts. That idea is deeply unfair. The body doesn't sabotage, it protects. If you spent years in a state of intoxication, the body will resist sudden changes because it has learned that they hurt. But if it's given the right environment, it responds with gratitude. Hunger becomes real again. Rest becomes deep again. Thinking becomes clearer. The body, at last, starts cooperating with life. The body knows how to return on its own. One of the most liberating ideas in this process is realizing you don't need to educate the body from the outside. You don't need to teach it how to feel true hunger or train it to function properly. You don't need to impose rules, punish it with strict diets, or motivate it with slogans. The body already knows. It always has. It just needs you to stop confusing it. That's why, when artificial food is cut out, the body doesn't enter chaos. What happens is the opposite. It starts to return to its original way of operating, like a compass that stops spinning erratically once removed from a distorted magnetic field. Biological wisdom is intact. Even if you've spent years eating poorly, ignoring your body's signals, or forcing it into unhealthy routines, its biological intelligence is not erased. The body doesn't forget how to feel well. It just adapts to what's there. And when what's there changes, it naturally returns to its state of balance. You can see this clearly in the first days of cutting industrial products. At first, there's confusion. Yes, maybe irritability, fatigue, doubt. But soon after, like a flower beginning to bloom, new signals emerge. You crave fruit. You want to drink water. You eat less without trying. You sleep better. Your body starts sending messages that don't come from addiction, they come from its real needs. The instinct resets on its own. The most profound part of this process is realizing that change doesn't have to be forced. It has to be allowed. Because instinct, that mechanism that regulates when, how much, and what to eat, isn't broken. It's asleep. Or rather, it's anesthetized by the artificial overstimulation of the modern food system. When that stimulation stops, the instinct begins to restore itself naturally, like a river that finds its course again once cleared. You no longer feel hungry all day. You don't need constant snacks. You don't crave intense stimulation. You eat when your body asks, not when habit or anxiety dictates. That is the real instinct, a reliable, silent, and precise guide. Eating stops being a conflict. At this point, something magical happens. Eating stops being a mental struggle. You don't have to overthink. You're not making titanic efforts to control yourself. You simply eat when you're hungry and stop when you're not. No battles. No self-deception. No suffering. What was once an internal war becomes a harmonious agreement. And the most surprising part is, you didn't change your personality or go through intense therapy. You just stopped intoxicating the system. And as soon as the body is given peace, it gives peace back. "I'm not hungry" becomes true. A common phrase people say before changing their diet is, "I know I'm not hungry, but I still want to eat." And that's often true. But the beautiful thing is that, over time, this phrase changes naturally. You genuinely feel that you're not hungry, and also not anxious. There's no need to eat out of impulse. No void to fill. No urgent craving to distract you. There are moments when you simply don't need to eat, and that doesn't cause struggle, but freedom. The body starts speaking clearly again. And you start listening. Real flavor as revelation. One of the most unexpected and emotional moments of the cleansing process is rediscovering real flavor. It's not just about improved health or reduced anxiety. It's about something surprising. True taste begins to return. And when that happens, it's a revelation. For years, the palate was numbed. Not by chance, but by saturation, refined sugar, excess salt, flavorings, artificial enhancers, preservatives, and fat combined to create such intense stimulation that natural flavors were drowned out. A raw carrot can't compete with packaged chips. A fresh tomato doesn't win against an industrial pizza. But that's not because the tomato lacks flavor. It's because the palate was trained to seek explosions, not truth. When the palate is cleansed, true flavors emerge. After a few days or weeks without additives, something shifts, the tongue sharpens. The brain calms. Perception becomes more subtle. Suddenly, a peach tastes incredibly sweet. Steamed pumpkin tastes delicately sweet. Brown rice has texture, body, essence. It's not that the food changed. It's that you did. Your palate detoxed. And in doing so, you regained a capacity that was always there, the ability to taste the truth. The cycle of distortion reverses. For years, the flavor system was inverted. Artificial was perceived as tasty, and natural as bland. But that's a chemical trick. A sensory trap. A programmed taste. When that trap is cut off, the cycle reverses. Industrial food starts to feel excessive, heavy, even unpleasant. And natural food, once dull, begins to have nuances, details, authenticity. What once seemed boring becomes interesting. What once seemed light becomes enough. Real flavor becomes a discovery that forever changes your relationship with food. You're not eating healthy as a sacrifice. You're eating what actually tastes good. Only now, you can notice. Pleasure returns, but from another place. One of the great revelations is that pleasure doesn't disappear when you stop eating artificial food. On the contrary, it transforms. It's no longer an intense, fleeting pleasure followed by guilt or fatigue. It's a deep, clean, lasting pleasure. A pleasure that doesn't require quantity to be felt. One bite of something real can give more joy than 10 bites of something fake. This pleasure comes with calm, not urgency. It comes with connection, not impulse. It comes with presence. It grounds you in the moment, letting you savor without needing to flee or numb anything. Eating becomes a conscious, intimate, even spiritual act. Not because it must be solemn, but because it regained meaning. Eating stops being allowed or forbidden, it becomes true. When real flavor appears, you no longer have to struggle with the idea of, this is forbidden, or, I shouldn't eat that. There's no need to live with restrictions or rules imposed from outside. Because your body no longer wants the other stuff. Your mouth no longer craves overstimulation. Your mind no longer falls for fake food. And that change wasn't made by a diet. It was made by truth. The truth that returned to your palate, and with it, true pleasure. True hunger is a friend, not an enemy. For a long time, hunger has been seen as a threat. Something to avoid, control, suppress, or cover up. In traditional diets, it's presented as the great enemy. If you're hungry, you'll break the plan. If you feel hunger, you're losing. Hunger is dangerous. But that view is completely wrong. Because true hunger is not a threat, it's a signal. And when the body is clean, that signal returns to its natural form. Real hunger isn't scary, it doesn't rush you, it doesn't overwhelm you. It's a calm, clear, physical sensation. It doesn't come with anxiety or guilt. It's like an inner bell that rings to say, I need energy. And the most beautiful thing is, once that energy arrives, hunger goes away. It doesn't argue. It doesn't demand more. It doesn't stick around without reason. Making peace with hunger. In this stage of the process, many people discover, sometimes for the first time in years, that they can feel hunger without feeling bad. And that's a profound revelation. Because real hunger doesn't lead to loss of control. It doesn't push you to eat compulsively. It doesn't drag you to guilt. It's a neutral, wise sensation that only asks to be heard. Making peace with hunger means no longer fearing the body. It means trusting that, if it asks for something, it does so out of need, not addiction. And realizing that hunger wasn't the problem was the distortion that made it seem dangerous. False hunger disappears. Once the body resets, many of the hungers that used to appear simply vanish. Mid-morning hunger, post-dinner hunger, night cravings, nervous snacking, all of that begins to fade. Not because you're eating more. Quite the opposite. Often, you eat less. But you eat better. And so the body no longer needs to overcompensate for imbalances. The hunger signal returns to its natural form. It appears when it should, and disappears when it's answered. Simple, clean, true, hunger as an ally of balance. When hunger is real, it becomes a tool of self-regulation. It helps you know when to pause, when it's time to nourish yourself, when your body is speaking with honesty. And now that you know how to listen, you no longer need to impose rules from outside. You no longer eat every 3 hours out of habit. You no longer need snacks just because they said so. You eat when you feel it. And far from creating chaos, that inner rhythm brings order. Because there's no system more accurate than the one already inside your own body. Hunger is no longer the enemy. And neither are you. At the end of this journey, you realize something that changes your entire relationship with your body. Hunger was the friend who was trying to tell you something was wrong. And now that you can listen to it, without fear, without interference, without guilt, it becomes a guide, not a trap. Food is no longer a battlefield. It's a source of life. The body is no longer an enemy that sabotages, it's a system that walks beside you. And you are no longer someone who fights against what they feel. You're someone who learns to trust again, in your body's simplest, most honest signal, true hunger.